Welcome to our full real car performance season from September 2020, where again I was hoping to see a Mercedes and a Williams on the grid, and thankfully we had both, as I took a Mercedes for this season and RF drove a Williams. It was alexstuff on pole position in the Red Bull for round 1, a second clear of the rest of the pack, and RF's Williams joining him on the front row after our first one-shot qualifying session. I believe we were using the original F1 2020 calendar, so 22 rounds in total, and that start at Australia was a dramatic one, as Keg's Ferrari ended up in the wall and he took a pit stop. I would have liked to get a full grid, but drivers seemed more interested in equal performance cars and would probably want the season to last a couple of months. But it was fun doing the real cars over a few days. alexstuff won that first race and took the fastest lap. RF put his Williams straight onto the podium, and it was yours truly in third. Round 2 quali was a bit more competitive, with alexstuff only on pole this time by half a second, and we did this league in 4 days back to back, so I reviewed incidents at the end of those 4 days. Again, there was drama at the start involving Keg's Ferrari hitting the wall. RF, despite having a slow car, was actually challenging for the lead, but again alexstuff managed to remain ahead by the end of this 3-lap race. After the penalties were sorted out, it was the same podium again, Alex making it 2 for 2, RF second, me in third, but Keg had taken the fastest race lap in the Ferrari. For our race at Vietnam, Alex was on pole by an impressive 1.3 seconds, and I started alongside him. I believe this was the first time we visited that track, and there was a lot of contact at the back as we reached turn 1, and Keg actually saw this coming and it slowed down, not only getting through unscathed, but also gained a position by doing that. So Keg drawing from his experience to use a tactic like that in the moment, while Alex and RF emerged as first and second. I accidentally ran a McLaren wide, which I assumed was Darrow, but later managed to take the corner a bit more tidy when side by side. Although I had also shunted RF and damaged my front wing slightly, and having front wing damage, even if it's minor, had always impacted my pace. I lost a couple of positions, with Keg impressively squeezing through right at the end. The podium was alexstuff, RF and Darrow 5G, with Alex getting his second fastest lap. Things got shaken up for China, partly because when I saved the leave settings, then left the lobby to make space for the next couple of replays in the replay menu, then invited everyone to the new lobby and loaded the settings. The settings looked correct when I glanced at them, but I didn't notice that the car performance was now equal. There were a lot of options for what to do next, and a lot of reasons for and against each option, and I decided to treat that round as a championship round, including the points awarded after any penalties, and then fixing the settings for the next round. So after a dramatic race, it was Darrow 5G winning, Alex second, Keg third, and RF had taken pole position in the fastest lap. Alex was back on pole by over a second for Zandvoort, and apart from some minor wing damage, it was a pretty relaxed start. Later on, Keg in the Ferrari had managed to find more grip than I did, and I believe he was using a controller while I was using a wheel, so I think the game suits controllers well, and he did a good job making the most of it despite not having the fastest car. But it was close at the front, and an automatic penalty would drop him down the order. Alex took another win from pole with the fastest lap, Darrow took a third podium in second, and RF was third. Alex was on pole again at Spain, a second ahead of RF. Despite being 4 wide, the start seemed to be safe, which is always good to see in these 3-lap races, where everyone's rushing to get into a good position, especially if they have a bad qualifying session, as opposed to longer races where you have more time to be careful. Riding on board with Keg, as we see there was some drama, and then Keg got tangled up with Senemars, which was an unusual incident because the door was open, so I think it's understandable that he went for it, but then the door was closed, so an unfortunate incident for both drivers I think. Meanwhile, up at the front, RF and Alex were fighting over the lead, despite Alex clearly having the faster pace in qualifying, although if RF gets ahead it can be difficult for any driver to overtake him. So Alex did well to win that one, getting the fastest lap again, with RF close in second, myself in third, and that marked the end of that first day. I wasn't surprised to be in the top 2 for qualifying at Monaco, as it's one of my best tracks, but Alex really kicked off that first day strongly, qualifying 1.5 seconds ahead of the pack. Alex ran away with the lead, while I had a fair start holding second, and knew that I only needed to be consistent to finish second, as there's really no chance for the slower cars behind to overtake at Monaco. So RF and one of the McLarens were stuck behind me, and I'm sure it's frustrating, but Monaco is part of the calendar, and it was just nice that we could all trust each other to be clean. RF had started behind the McLarens, but both McLarens had some trouble, so it was Alex, myself and RF on the podium, with another fastest lap for Alex. At Baku, the qualifying result was closer, with Alex and RF on the front row. There was some drama at turn 1, but it wasn't too bad, with only minor wing damage and a small amount of time lost. It could have been much worse on that first lap, as the barriers are so close. It probably looked more dramatic than it was in terms of impact to the innocent drivers. I ended up smacking my front wing into the wall a bit later, causing some damage, which surprised me because I didn't think I'd brake too late. Billy had an automatic penalty, so it was Alex, RF and myself on the podium, with Alex getting a lot of the fastest laps. Despite Canada being one of my best tracks, RF had out-qualified me by a full second, even putting the Williams on pole position. But unfortunately for RF, there was an incident at the start, as Darrow's car had collided with the Williams, resulting in contact for every car. And I think Darrow unfairly gained an advantage, even if it wasn't intentional. And later on had struck the wall, which allowed me to take the lead of the race. RF apparently had a damaged front wing, not what you want when you're already driving a slow car, but he managed to recover a couple of positions, and after reviewing the incidents I had disqualified Darrow's result, as it was a bit unfair on the other drivers that didn't really get a chance to challenge him due to that start incident. So I got my first win of the season. Alex was second with the fastest lap, and a good result for Bonotto in a Haas taking third. On round 10, RF got another pole position in the realistic Williams, 4/10 ahead of Alex, and I suspect that he was pushing hard to get a win after that drama at Canada. He had a good start against the traction control Red Bull of Alex, and if you actually watch how much of the track he uses, you can see that he's really making the most of what he's got available. Meanwhile, further back I was probably using less curb in the faster Mercedes, just trying to avoid the risk of corner cutting penalties or getting into a spin. Alex did catch up, and the two would battle for the lead, and although their racing was a bit more aggressive than what I'd expect in the FDC, as I talk a lot about trying to leave a little bit of space for safety, I wouldn't want to stop these two from racing each other, as they clearly knew what they were doing, and it was entertaining to watch. The battle went right to the end, with RF just taking his first win, doing the unthinkable, winning a race in the realistic car Williams against experienced drivers in faster cars. Alex finished 1/10 behind in second, Villian and McLaren took his first podium of the season in third, and Darrow got the fastest lap. It was a close qualifying session for round 11, with Darrow taking pole in the McLaren, and RF setting almost the same time in the Williams, with all the drivers that had set times being within the same second. The start was pretty clean, with the McLarens doing well, but Alex clearly wanted to get back to his usual spot at the front, and made a cheeky move up the inside of RF, not wasting any time in this 3-lap race to get where he wanted to be, with RF racing him just as hard as they remained side by side. Red Bull would eventually move into second, although Alex had to fight for it, and then would chase after the McLaren of Darrow. Meanwhile, I had a front row seat watching RF fend off the McLaren of Villy. But in a shock twist of events, Alex and Darrow got knocked together and crashed into the wall. Villy would suddenly find himself moving from fourth, straight to the lead of the race. We finished close in that order, with Villy taking his first win, but further back there was still some drama, as Matty Creamy had made a move on the last corner, but Alex didn't expect it, resulting in an incident. Running these 3-lap races made things tense, and it would be a while before I'd review the incidents, but we had one more round that day, which we jumped straight into. Alex stayed focused and had a good qualifying lap, on top of having taken the fastest lap at Austria, and I thought I had done a good lap, but RF had beaten me to start in the front row alongside Alex. My car was getting spicy at the start, stepping out as I gave it a lot of power, while RF led the pack, and then McLaren ended up sideways. On my recording you could see the car wanting to spin, which does happen sometimes, and I didn't get much room at turn 1, but fortunately there was no incident. A bit further up my car got ghosted, and Villy took advantage of that, which was a bit weird because I didn't think my car should have been ghosted. Alex stayed close to RF, and it wasn't long until he got alongside. They obviously had an understanding, making some contact as they went wheel to wheel, but Alex would get into the lead, no doubt helped of course by having the faster of the two cars. RF was right there behind him still, but just ran out of grip and would pretty much have to settle for second, which isn't bad for a Williams. Further back there had been a collision between Villy and Jason, which had jumped me from 5th back to 3rd after my awkward start. So it was Alex winning again with the fastest lap, RF put up a good fight and more than deserved that second position, and myself in 3rd. That was the end of our second day out of 4, and I was being asked about the championship standings. So this was the provisional result from that point in time, before any penalties had been applied, obviously with Alex leading the championship.